ResortLoop.com is proud to be sponsored by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company. Joffrey's now offers coffee subscriptions. You can order a 3, 6, or 12-month subscription. You can choose from 3 collections: the Flavored Coffee Collection, the Roastmasters Collection, or the Disney Signature Coffee Collection. Each collection includes 3 bags per month. With the Joffrey's Coffee subscriptions, never run out of great coffee again. Learn more and order at Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
For those of you who have joined us at the Polynesian Village Resort Hotel, aloha, and welcome aboard the Walt Disney World local monorail system. During the trip, we request that everyone please remain seated, and that there please be no eating, drinking, or smoking. Thank you. Our next stop is the Magic Kingdom.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott. This is ResortLoop.com, the gateway to the magic. We have a real treat today. Joining us, you know him from the DVC Roundtable. You might know him from a little My DVC Points with Mr. Chad Pennycuff. I've heard him there before. It's Mr. Brad Coates.
Greetings, everybody.
Oh, Brad's cool. Great to see you.
My favorite thing, talking Disney.
Oh,
Woo-hoo.
absolutely. We're going to talk a couple trips that you took. You took a trip, what did we say? It was back in August?
Yeah, last week of August, first couple of days of September.
And then you took a trip semi-recently.
2 weeks ago, got back, yeah. 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I think is when I got back from that trip.
So we were talking, what was it, right after or right before a DVC Roundtable, and we thought a good show would be to compare the two. Like, how are things changing and evolving for those going to go to Walt Disney World on a vacation?
Right, because both of those trips, of course, were during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure anybody that's been paying attention, anybody that's dreaming about making their next trip, they've been watching and paying attention because it's a very different beast right now going to Disney World. You know, no fast passes and dining's different and resorts, not all the resorts are open and the monorail's not working like we're used to. And so it's definitely different, but it's still a lot of fun. Hey, it's still Disney World. Like a bad day in Disney World is a great day.
That's true. You're not at work, so there's always that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so my alarm went off. I need to get up now.
I'm right behind you. We're
not in my pajamas. Sorry.
We're not actually in the same bed. We're Skyping this in, by the way.
No, we're a long ways apart.
Don't picture that. So how did
our rating? Okay.
So how did planning your trip and making the reservations differ, just from the get-go, from August till your most recent trip?
And so I think planning-wise, the biggest difference, for pandemic, you're talking about between the two trips?
Yeah.
Not a lot of difference.
Really?
The only difference was that there's a few more hotels open now. There's more availability, and even hotels that were open, there's some things that they weren't offering before that they are offering now. So that expanded. But as far as the booking of the trip, as soon as the pandemic, when they first reopened, they went to the system where you book, you get your tickets, and the first thing you really need to do is go out and schedule which park you're going to go to that day.
Right.
You have to reserve a park. That is still the same. Now, there is one change with that, though, in that park hoppers, on my first trip, they were not available at all. Mm-hmm. But honestly, as you'll hear in a little bit, that was not necessary. Park hopping, unless you want to cover all 4 parks in 2 days, you could have done it and ridden everything pretty much. But the second trip, they were available. You could get a fast pass. What they did was you had to reserve a park for your opening park for the day, and then at 2:00. Actually, the times will list inside of Disney's website, but what I've discovered is pretty much now all of them are saying 2:00. But in the beginning, they'd have a different time. But at a certain time, 2:00, now you can go into Epcot. 1:00, now you can go into Animal Kingdom. It was the one that was usually different because it closed early. But other than that, everything else was pretty much the same.
That's fantastic, because I know a lot of people, and usually myself included, love to park hop as well. You have to remind me, did you... was this a DVC hotel resort you were staying at, or was it regular hotel side.
Yeah, on this particular trip, I have a bunch of DVC points. I really needed to get something done.
That's right. So, right. Had to use them.
I had multiple trips scheduled last year that all got canceled and pushed and shoved, and so this stay I stayed. I did split stay because I'm into split stays.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the first trip. I spent the first couple of days. I actually got Animal Kingdom value rooms, which I'd never been able to get those before. And I'm an Animal Kingdom contract owner, but they're like the concierge. They're gone. I mean, so I got that. That was cool. And I actually enjoyed that. It was so I could experience that. But then I moved, then I did Riviera for the first time, Riviera Resort.
Oh, nice.
And I thought I'd try one of those tower rooms. They talked about that's really only resort that has them.
Mm-hmm. For
Best
only
way
two
to
people.
Describe those rooms as it's a cruise cabin. It is. It's just like you walk in and you go, oh, okay, well,
where's the buffet?
There's room. You pull the bed down, and when you pull the bed down, you got to kind of turn sideways to get by it.
Wow.
Almost. I mean, it was snug. Bathroom was huge because it was like built like a pie, right? It's on a circular corner on the building. And so your room is like a pie. Well, the room is here, and then the bathroom's this big, wide thing that goes small in the back. So the bathroom was huge, but it was nice. So I got to stay there. So I wanted to do a Skyliner resort, and I got to do Skyliner for the first time. And then the second trip, I did Animal Kingdom again because I'm an Animal Kingdom guy. I love my Animal Kingdom. On that one, I got a value room, 1-bedroom.
Ooh.
So I thought, try that.
Yes.
And then we moved to, and then this trip, the first trip I was by myself. This trip I took my youngest daughter for her birthday. And she's a Star Wars nut and has never been to Star Wars Land. So that was the whole idea behind the trip. And so we stayed in a Bay Lake Tower theme park view, which we had never done before. And I am hooked now.
How'd you like the rooms? I've heard differing
contract. It's coming.
Is it really?
Oh, that view, even without the fireworks. And I can't imagine what it'd be like with the fireworks, right?
Mm-hmm. I've heard different.
You ever been up in one of those?
No, but I've heard different things. Like it's either you love it or you hate it, kind of thing. I've heard with Bay Lake Tower.
Well, I must have had a good one because I was way up high.
Mm-hmm.
At night when they turn on the lights on Space Mountain and the castle, and of course seeing the monorail, it is going. It's just not fully functioning, but I loved it. I fell in love with it, and the windows were like floor to ceiling, all the way across, solid glass.
I've always been a contemporary fan, so I got to imagine I would love that.
Yeah. And then it had its own balcony, so you could go out and sit on the balcony and have that view. It was just like get up in the morning, have my cup of coffee, right? Like you're having right now, right?
Exactly.
Your cup of coffee and
right here.
right there. And you're enjoying that view. And it's like, I'm really not sure I want to go do anything today. This is kind of nice. So, but yeah, so those are my resorts.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So the resorts were nice. Everything was clean. Did any mousekeeping there, or was that all suspended during everything?
Well, with the DVC, it's the same.
That's true.
Same as usual. Right. You do notice that in both it was the same. Everything's sealed. Everything has been, they cleansed and sanitized, and then they put a wrap around the remote. They put a deal over the phone. They all these things just to show you that they've taken good care of it. Now, I will say that the first trip in the resorts, no crowds. I mean, lobbies are empty. I took pictures of the Animal Kingdom Lodge only because you just had to see there was no people. It's just I've never seen a resort like that. It's like, this is kind of apocalyptic scary,
Right. I did hear that from, multiple people. It's like, we shouldn't even be here. It should be closed. Feels like it's closed.
Yeah. It's eerie feeling. It's like, it's nice, but it's kind of not nice.
Right.
So, second time, definitely more people.
Okay.
Still low. Of course, I was at an Animal Kingdom Lodge, and so Animal Kingdom was only functioning at that point. The hotel side of Jumbo wasn't functioning. It's only the DVC side.
Gotcha.
So they're getting ready to open the other, but it was still, so it was a small crowd in there. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, because it looked to me like the Contemporary had enough people in there that it might be open. So I don't know do you know if that one, because a lot of the the actual Disney hotels aren't open. Only the DVC
portion of the
combined
hotels
are open.
I don't remember, to be honest. I would have to look.
But there was a lot of people there. There was definitely a lot more people at Bay Lake. It was different there. You know, the first one, go down to the pool. I'm the only guy in the hot tub all by myself. The second trip, it's like, okay, if you're having problems with your social distancing, if you're uncomfortable with people next to you without a mask, you probably want to stay away from the pool and the jacuzzi because
Gotcha.
A lot of people hanging in. So.
A lot of Venn diagrams crisscrossing there.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, just a little tidbit, little secret hidden gem. Sitting in the hot tub that night at Bay Lake Tower, and all of a sudden I heard some familiar music, and I looked up, and it was the electric light, the pageant across the water. And you're sitting in the hot tub, and you can see them coming across and hear them. It's just like, dude,
that's a magical moment.
A nice hot cocoa right now.
I just realized my light's not on. Hang on.
Yeah,
you're good.
It's cute. Yeah. So something to keep in mind if you ever want to try a Bay Lake Tower one. That's a cool one.
Man, I do enjoy a good hot tub.
Yeah, me too. I can almost live without the pools, but gotta have I'm an old guy. I gotta soak, especially if I have a day in the park. I gotta soak something. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you, there's spas on the cruise line to switch accommodations there for a little bit. I'll lounge in those for quite a bit.
Yep, I always buy the thermal pass or thermal suite, or I buy the rainforest pass on Disney.
Oh,
on those,
nice.
Incredible. So that's a topic for another time.
We'll
do a show on Disney Cruise, my other favorite thing in the world.
I've got that on the books, actually.
Oh, cool.
And you'll be in that book, by the way. You'll be in that book. Okay, so getting into the parks, anything different along those before we actually get inside the parks?
Okay, so well, let me tie something to that because probably the biggest challenge with getting to the parks and getting into the parks is the getting to. They still have the policy in place where they only start running the buses an hour before the park opens. Okay. And when I went out the first time, that's when they had safe distance the buses, and they didn't have plexiglass barriers in there. So what they did was there'd be a section on the bus that'd say two can sit here, and it'd have the number one, and then next to it there'd be 3 seats, number 2, 2, 2. Then there'd be a 3 across from you, and a 4, and a 5, and a 6. So they broke the whole bus up into sections of 2, 3, or possibly 4 seats. Well, if I sat in one of those seats, let's say I happened to get on the bus last and it was a section, the only thing left was a section for 4 seats. And I sat in that section, nobody else could sit in that section, just me. And then that first trip, the section next to you, if there wasn't 2 seats open, they couldn't fill that one. So literally the bus was less than half full. They had like 9 or 10 sections, and they could really only put people into 4 or 5 sections. So
wow.
That one was a little nerve-wracking because I thought, great, I'm going to get, because you heard the horror stories, right? People going, oh man, I had to stand there and wait for 4 buses before I could actually go.
And that would feel like the case when there wasn't all this going on sometimes.
Exactly. Now it's like there's no crowd. You think you're good to go. And it's like, wait a minute, you only let 7 people on the bus. Come on. It's only 4 more of us. Squeeze us in. I'll stand. Nope, can't do it.
Can I rent a Tomorrowland Speedway car? I'll just drive that around the property.
Yeah. So now I will say a little side story. I got really spoiled my first day. I was staying in Animal Kingdom. So the challenge is what was happening then and is really happening now. This last trip, now the last trip 2 weeks ago, every single day, every park was opening early. So said 8 a.m. open, but sometime between 7 and 7:30, they were letting people in, and they weren't just taking you in like they used to do with Hollywood Studio and queuing you at the end of the street. They would literally let you in. On my first trip, I got there early. They let me in. I walked back. There was a line. I was getting ready to line up for get my Rise of the Resistance, boarding group. You want to be in one spot or the other, and I'm waiting for the time for the official opening. Well, I realized, wait a minute, they got a whole line there for Mickey and Minnie, but the line was small, and I thought, and that's one that's bad. So it's like, well, maybe I'll just get on that, and then I'll be standing in line, and I'll ask them, do I get good signal, and can I book my boarding group? And they said, yeah, inside the signal's great. Outside, you'll be able to do it.
Okay.
So I got in line thinking I'm going to be standing in line waiting till they opened at 8 or 9 o'clock, whatever it was. Well, all of a sudden, I realized the line was moving. I went in, rode Mickey and Minnie, got off, came back out, rode Mickey and Minnie again, came back off, and that was about the time to do my pass. Not quite. So I headed back to Millennium Falcon, which was already loading and riding people.
Wow.
So I went back to Millennium Falcon. I started to go in line there, and I said, now, if I go inside this metal building, am I going to get Wi-Fi signal? He said, you won't. It's very sporadic. Mm-hmm. So I stood at the entrance, waited till exact time for the park to open. Boom, hit my button. Boom, got my boarding group. Life was good. I wanted to high five everybody, but we can't touch each other. No. So, air five. And,
wow.
And then I turned around and went straight on to Millennium Falcon and rode it, came back out, rode it again, went and rode Toy Story, Slinky Dog Dash, rode Tower of Terror, rode Rock and Roller Coaster. And then that was about 11:30.
Jeez, that must be the most productive day ever at the studios.
Yeah. And then I had to wait a little while before my boarding group rode, and I rode that. And basically by noon, I was done with the park.
Crazy.
But on the Animal Kingdom day, but the only struggle is, so they're opening the parks early, but if the bus doesn't leave until an hour before the park opens, will you get there quick enough to get inside the gate when it's open?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I started to go, do I Uber to make sure?
Right.
Well, my first day at Animal Kingdom, I went down a half hour before the hour. So I was an hour and a half early. I was literally the only person at the bus stop at Animal Kingdom. Nobody else there. And I'm thinking, well, I just beat everybody here. Well, I'm waiting, and a bus pulls up. And the guy opens the door, and I said, you're not supposed to be taken till an hour before the park, right? It's like an hour and 40 minutes before the park opens. And he said, it's okay. Get on. Well, I get on. Well, then a supervisor drives by, stops, starts talking to him through the window. And he goes, well, sir, this is a new route. I took it from another guy, and they gave me the bus early. So I just figured I'd get here early and start loading people. But he just told me I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to wait until an hour before. And I went, I'm going to sit here for 30 minutes.
Right.
Bummer. I thought I was ahead of the ball game. But all of a sudden he goes, but my boss said, since you're already on the bus. So he closed the door, drove me to Animal Kingdom, and it was perfect. Wow. That's the day I got off the bus. I literally got through the gates at 45 minutes before the park officially opened, went straight back to Avatar. Rides were opened. I got on, you've heard the story, I got on Flight of Avatar. And I decided I was going to go for the Guinness World Book of Records. I rode it 14 times in a row.
Wow.
Over and over and over. And I had ridden it like 9 times before the official park opening. And by the time it was barely an hour into the park time, I'd ridden it 14 times. And I kind of had to stop because I was getting sick. I love this ride, but
right.
Because my thing, I'm going to go all day and see, 45 rides. Who can say they can top this? Yeah, not without going to the hospital.
Wow.
Goodness. So, but then I went and rode everything else on the park, rode every major ride, rode a couple of them a couple times, Expedition Everest. Had lunch at Satui Canteen, and then went back, started getting back onto Flight of Avatar, rode it like 4 more times, and finally just said, yeah, I'm good for the day. And it was like 1 o'clock. I left the park for the day. Rode 17 times Flight of Avatars.
Crazy. Did anybody say anything to you when you got off your private bus? Like, who's this guy? He's got a private Disney bus.
Yeah, really. No, there was nobody there because he wasn't supposed to be going there yet. I was literally the only bus that pulled up. So
Fred's walking off the bus like a baller.
There were some people at the gate, but very few. But there were people that had driven there. So, but yeah. So needless to say, kind of give you a sense of, as you can tell, that was the first trip. First trip, low crowds. It wasn't the most memorable trip I've ever had because my family wasn't with me.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. That's the memories. But as far as fun, that was the funnest trip I've ever had to Disney World because no lines, any park, anywhere, get in, do whatever you want, do it multiple times, and be done halfway through the day.
Do you remember, was there maximum capacity? Was that like a 20% time when they were letting in the first time you were there?
It was, seems like it was 25.
25%? Okay.
Is it 20 or 25? Yeah. Yeah. That was when it was the lowest number. Yeah. The 25. Yeah. Because they had just really opened, not a month before.
Right.
Something like first August. Yeah. So they were very early on. The second trip, they'd expanded the numbers, and that was a very different trip. So,
well, let's get into that. How'd the newer trip go to compare it to the previous one, crowd-wise?
So, so second trip, very clear, just flying into Orlando that there was a new sheriff in town.
Oh, okay.
First trip, lots of space, middle seat always open, but it didn't matter because still half the plane was empty. This trip, every seat full, every leg, going into Orlando, coming out of Orlando, period. It was just like the old days, just chaos.
Well, it's easy not to sell the center seat when people aren't on the plane. It's easy to come across as a hero. No, we're not selling the center seat to anybody, but nobody's on the plane anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But not this trip, man. It was like, okay, expect it. It's coming. So it was that was in Orlando airport packed. So you kind of knew, and I'd already seen some of the horror stories, how full it was. So I was ready for it. Still the same thing. Still got Magical Express took a little bit longer because there was longer lines, but I never had to wait for a second bus. So it still wasn't bad there.
Yeah.
I was worried about the bus system. Oh, I never mentioned. And then for the first time, I got to use Skyliner on that first trip, and I fell in love. That is the coolest, nicest. If it's running, not at a time of year like they had to close it a couple times to wind or lightning. And then if you're staying, another tidbit note, if you're staying at Riviera, and that thing gets shut down, good luck.
Oh, you're an island then.
Yeah, because they only run buses to the parks that don't have it. They're not really set. They don't run buses anymore, or they weren't, to the parks that the Skyliner went to. So if the Skyliner goes down, they're trying to catch up. They're struggling, and I literally ended up getting a bus to Caribbean, and then walking over to Riviera because it was utter chaos.
Wow.
Trying to find a bus that was going to Riviera or anything else. It was crazy. So anyway, so the second trip, the buses was one of the big differences. This time, all of those, still the same sections, but now they had plexiglass walls in between each section, which meant now they could fill every section. Like you could have a person right there next to you, but there's a piece of plexiglass in between you. So of course,
how cozy,
you're completely safe.
Of course,
you couldn't possibly catch that there COVID thing.
Oh my gosh, the guy breaks hard. Everybody's got a concussion from hitting plexiglass with their head.
Exactly. You still didn't have completely full buses because if somebody got on 2, the only place was 4, that kind of a thing. But much more full buses. But a lot more people at the bus stops. Now, my daughter and I lucked out. I won't say we lucked out. We were just blessed. We did not have to wait for a second bus any of our days or any of our trips. But a lot of that was because we were on the road there first thing, and we get down early, always did, and we caught the first bus every time, and we get to the parks. And then normally we wouldn't come back till, middle day or 1 o'clock. And then we'd, and actually then what we were doing was almost every day we'd take the bus to Epcot. And that was lunch day because Flower and Garden was going on. So guess what we got to do for lunch every day?
You were grazing World Showcase.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
So it wasn't so bad, but definitely a lot more crowds. But they've changed up the buses so they could fill them more, which was really handy. Check-in at the parks was definitely different because now there were lines. Now there were lines to get through. You still get your temp check. You still go through all the steps, but go through the metal detectors, all of that. But there was a line. There was a line there. There was a line to get through to check your ticket, to get into the park. You get inside the parks, and now the streets, especially at Hollywood Studio, like once again, if you're weirded out by COVID and the whole safe distancing, just stay home.
Right.
The anxiety is not worth it. I mean, I love Disney, but believe me, they're right there. Now they weren't rubbing up against you, bumping you like in the old days, but it was close quarters.
Gotcha.
All the way down the main streets. Magic Kingdom wasn't too bad, but all the other ones were just. There's a lot of people in here.
Did it still feel lighter than normal, or did it feel?
Definitely, you would think it was lighter than normal. I mean, it definitely was. You could tell. It's just in the hot spot areas where it was packed.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, the days of riding Flight of Avatar 17 times were gone. But here's the good news. We rode it like 2 or 3 times. And I think the longest we waited for Avatar was like 40 minutes.
Okay.
So I'll take that.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Pre-COVID was, 2 hours.
Oh, easily. Easily.
An hour and a half past the first 15 minutes of the day, and you're just stuck. So that was definitely different. Dining was different the second time around. The first time around, only certain restaurants were open, and it was, certain places to eat because there weren't any sit-down restaurants. Right. You didn't go inside. It was all quick service. And you used the app to pre-order your meal for all meals. You couldn't just show up to a quick service, get in the line, and order your food. If you got to the front of the quick service, there's a big, sandwich sign with a QR code that says, "Don't order till you've ordered your meal." You do the QR code, it bring up the menu, you order your food. Then when they tell you your food's ready, come to bay number 4, then you go inside and get your food. Well, the second trip, still a lot of that was going on, and that's a permanent thing. That's not just COVID. They're doing all that online ordering now.
Right.
But the difference was now there were some restaurants where you could go inside, sit down. You could book some reservations for dining for certain places. Still, some of them were closed, but a lot more flexibility to where you could order your food and where you could go to eat. So,
could you tell if Galaxy's Edge had limited capacity, or was it just everyone went there and it still felt like normal, like a normal pre-COVID day?
That felt like the only thing that didn't feel like pre-COVID is shopping.
Really?
On both trips. Have you been inside Galaxy's Edge?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
So it's really cool. And of course, the theming is off the charts. Only thing that comes close is Cars Land. And I'm still at Cars Land. That's my favorite one. But I'm a Star Wars guy, and you're totally immersed. Well, they've got a section of it that makes it look like little trading posts, little hidden away cave-looking shops. And it's very narrow. It gives you that feel like you're on some foreign planet where you're kind of hiding away from the bad guys and these little shops. But the problem is it's COVID. So for you to shop in these tiny little shops, they had a line before you walked into the shop area. Okay. You had to queue up to get inside, and then you had to queue up in front of each store.
Oh my goodness.
So it was queue upon a queue upon a queue upon a queue. And but let me tell you, everywhere else outside, and even with that though, even with the queuing, that thing was just not designed to handle the crowds they have. It's just very claustrophobic small.
Wow.
And so when you go inside of there, I can't even imagine how full that's going to be with no COVID. It's just going to be nutspec.
You're right. Right.
But that's one area of the park where, like I said, downtown streets, Galaxy's Edge, the way it's designed, it does not leave there's lots of areas where it bottlenecks. Mm-hmm. And it gets small. And so the feel, even with I think the last I heard was they're at 35% capacity.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Yeah, they're not officially saying anything.
Right, right.
But I think that's what we've discovered. You would not know that inside of Galaxy's Edge.
Gotcha.
It feels full in there.
I've seen a couple of videos, and I'm like, was this taken in 2019?
Yeah.
Or was this just last week?
Now, where it is a little bit less, even though the lines are still long everywhere, but the queues, like for Millennium Falcon. So here's what's weird. Now the queue for Millennium Falcon literally comes down, goes through all of the switchbacks, which it used to be on a bad full day when you were waiting an hour and a half, it would get down to the entrance and start to go outside. Mm-hmm. Now, because you're safe distancing, the queue line for Millennium Falcon went all of those and came out into the open areas, went back tucked into things that Disney swore they'll never let you do. You can't go behind the scenes. You can't see behind the facade because you'll see the metalwork and the steelwork. Guess what?
That's what you see.
Now, because they're queuing off into some parking lot and some storage area.
Wow.
And then they kept going back and forth, and then came out and literally went out of Galaxy's Edge and was entering into Toy Story Land.
Sounds like you should have got a Run Disney medal after that queue.
You should have. I'm telling you, the miles you put in, it's crazy. But the weird part is you go to the front. You had to learn. You go to the front of the ride, right? And you go and you see a line. You go, well, where do I line up? And everybody's pointing back.
Oh, you just keep going. Oh my gosh.
A quarter mile later, half a mile later, you're still going. Wait a minute. Luckily, you didn't follow the whole line because it was longer than that. And it's like, so, that's what that guy was doing with that sign clearing Toy Story Land that said something about Millennium Falcon. I didn't.
Right.
That was the guy saying this is where the line starts.
Wow. I've cramped up and I'm not even in the line yet.
I could have saved a hike right there. So we got used to that. We would kind of, especially once we learned where they were at, it was like, we didn't go to the front. We could start way back looking for the line.
Wow.
Same thing with Slinky Dog Dash. It came clear out of Toy Story Land, went clear down to where Voyage of the Little Mermaid is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Past One Man's Dream, past.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, when you see those lines, your brain goes, no, I'm not going to do this. But here's the good news, Tim. Line moves fast.
I have heard that. It just keeps moving.
Yeah. You never stop. Most of the rides, they just keep moving because it's all the spacing that's creating it. It's not the.
And that was at 6 feet spacing, because I know they're talking about going to 3. I've heard rumors about switching to 3 feet social distancing in the queues, but.
Right. CDC's gone to that for schools.
Yes.
So we're all hoping that soon they'll shift that for the rest, and
everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. So
awesome. So other than these E+ attractions, as I sometimes call them. With the rest of the attractions, were they even more manageable? Yeah,
so they were kind of if it's the step. Are you saying the E+, the really good, really hard ones to get? Or are you talking about the next step down?
The next step down, like we know the E+ being Galaxy's Edge
gotcha.
and Slinky Dog.
Yeah, the E+, we know how they are. They were bad before COVID. They're bad now. They're just going to be bad.
Continue.
They're actually. Without the fast passes, though, even the longest we waited in line for any ride, it's all about knowing the right people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like Resort Loop Travel. He'll help you out. He'll come up with a touring plan for you that'll get it done. Get somebody to help you with a touring plan. I do that. So for a living, too. So
great. Or Brad Coates. Go to Brad Coates.
My touring plan. Longest we waited in line was 45 minutes.
Nice.
For any.
Right.
So. But those lines got up, some of them an hour and a half or the E+. For the others, they were busy. But they were kind of like pre-COVID numbers.
Okay, gotcha.
Pre-COVID numbers. So like Space Mountain, to me, that's not an E+ anymore. The numbers. It was, I think, and even without Fast Pass, I think the longest waits I ever saw, there were like 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes.
So while it wasn't like in August, your last trip, you still had quite a productive time the couple weeks ago when you were there.
Yeah. And here's the thing. In August, everything was a walk-on, including the E+ tickets. There wasn't a wait for anything. That was just like, that's what it made. It's like, I need to just call work, say I quit, and I'm going to stay here, or I'll be back in 2 weeks.
That's right.
Because I'm just going to stay here and just hold on to this till this thing dies, because I've never done Disney like that. I've never seen a park where I could just walk in and ride anything I wanted when I wanted.
Right.
You really didn't need a touring plan then, because it was just like, get there when it opens.
It's going to be one of those things where, remember when we did whatever we wanted to do that day? The only other option for that to even be close, I imagine, will be somewhere down the road they'll have a special ticketed event.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only thing that'll ever come close to it again. will be that. And even those ticketed ones, 9 times out of 10, the ones that I've done, they've kind of oversold them, and they're still
Right.
the E Plus ones are still long lines. It's just the way it is. You are not going to and I would say even going forward from now, you're probably not going to see somebody riding Flight of Avatar 20 times in one day.
Nope. I'm giving you the official medal, Mr. Brad.
Yeah, it's just not going to. Even if you got there at rope drop, stayed, 8 out of your pack, drank from your Camelback, never left the line, it would pretty much take that now to come close as they're expanding hours and stuff maybe. But yeah, it's just, it's going to continue. And they're going to bump it up, between now and October.
Oh, I'm guessing by October they're going to be at 100%. They're going to do their best to.
I'm thinking July we're going to see the next big jump, and if they haven't brought fast passes back yet, now we're going to. Right now, you hear a lot of the pundits talking about. See, we told you fast passes need to go away. They weren't helping us, and look at it's not bad now. It's all control, and they're right. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, the value of fast pass really isn't there if you just are careful. You're maintaining. Fast pass can make lines longer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
And it's only, we understand the science, but when they get back up to 100% capacity, no.
But I wonder, and we're going a little off track. If you don't have fast passes, you don't have Magical Express. Then you start to wonder, is it worth the extra to stay there? So they're going to have some kind of special perks for people staying on property.
They're going to have to do something, you would think. Because I can only speak for me, and as a travel agent,
Mm-hmm.
Trying to explain to clients, it's going to be a different world. And Tim, I'm just glad my kids are grown, because I am a Disney nut, and I'll still keep going. But I've got a sneaky feeling there's a lot of non-park Disney trips in my future.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, there's going to be some of those. Although the kids also, our kids, they still want us to take them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter that they're grown.
my oldest, she got married, right? And so she kept talking about, we're going on the family trip and da-da-da. I said, Katie, you're not coming with us on the next family trip. She said, what do you mean? We're family. We can still come. I said, no. You're married. You can book your own trip. You want to go at the same time we're there? You're welcome, but I'm not paying for your way anymore.
That's right. I'll give you the dates.
Well, what happens when I have grandkids? I said, well, they can come.
That's right. They fill your slot that I had before.
Yeah. But then I said that, and then guess what? June's my next trip, and all 5 of us are going.
Of
my
course.
daughter and my new son-in-law. But we're kind of doing that because last year they had a Walt Disney World honeymoon planned, and that got torched.
Oh, yeah.
So we're making this a special trip for them. And she is aware of it now. We were keeping it as a surprise, but we had managed, I'm praying, crossing my fingers, by June, we did book Animal Kingdom concierge for her and her fiance in their own room for a couple of days, because it's actually their anniversary that we're going to be there.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
So did something special for them. But
look at that. All right, Brad.
Yeah.
We probably need to wrap it up, but before we wrap it up, if somebody was going in the next couple weeks or so, they're set to go down, maybe say the next month, what would be your one big tip of advice?
Pack your patience. We're back to that. It just is. Trust me. And then don't trust your eyes. Give it a moment. Take a breath, give it a moment, because you're going to see things and you're going to go, oh, just go get on the bus and go home. There's no way. Look at that crowd. We can't even get in the park. And look at that. You telling me that the queue line is where? I'm not going to get in my lifetime before the end of this trip. Are they letting us spend the night? Do we have to bring our sleeping bag? Just don't trust your eyes, because you're going to see things that are going to make you think. If you translate that into what it used to be, you're going to think this is just not even going to be fun. It's absolutely fun. It is still enjoyable. It's not what it was in August when everybody, those kind of stories. And if you're going with that in mind, just don't. It's closer to what it used to be, but it's still not quite there.
Gotcha. Plus, get in the queue line. See what you're going to see that you won't be able to see again.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely, of course, you're walking through so fast, it's like, we had a couple of couples like, could you take a picture of us? Yeah, quick. We're already 8 people back, kind of hustle. But yeah, slow down, just relax. You still, when it's all said and done, will get on the rides in a reasonable time. And the nice thing is now the parks are open a little bit longer than they were back when in August.
True.
So you still have time to do it all. The park hopper is not a bad choice. We did it every single day. We took advantage of our park hopper because the truth is most parks, other than Hollywood Studios, which is a challenge with so many e-ticket rides, every other park, we had done everything we wanted. And trust me, we rode and did a lot. We were done before 1 o'clock.
Plus, you might want to go to Epcot for dinner around World Showcase.
And listen, Flower and Garden is going to be, if you're going in a few weeks, it's still there.
So it's like July 3rd, isn't it?
If you're going in June like me, it's still there in June. It's going to be permanent, right?
It's perpetual.
Wine and dine, and then they'll take a week off and then reset.
Exactly.
It's the new normal. But
they're just going to flip the signs from Flower and Garden over to Food and Wine.
But I'll tell you what, they have not, in my opinion, they haven't lost the quality it used to have. That food was good.
Awesome.
I think there was one thing we got the whole time. And we went there 3 nights for dinner. Every night we'd go there. I think there was one dish out of all of those.
Wow.
And we'd eat 4 or 5 dishes each night, There was one we didn't like. And outside of that, everything was like, oh my gosh.
That's a good ratio.
I'd order another one if I could. But
that is a fraction I will take.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, pack your patience. Don't trust your eyes. And you hear us say it all the time. If you haven't been before, if you're not a fan or you don't use touring plan, let me tell you, I built my plans. I went ahead and did some touring plans on this trip, and I did something I've never done, Tim. I've always customized the touring plans. I don't know if you use that much for your clients, but I'll go, I don't want to do it the way they're saying. I mean, they're moving you around too much. It'll take a little more time, but at least I go from this ride, go straight into that ride. I decided to try it this time. I just did what they said.
Right.
And literally it was almost dead on for every ride, all day, every day, no matter what. So
nice.
Use a touring plan.
Yes.
Or even better, use a company like Resort Loop Travel. I always encourage people, listen, Disney World is not a place, and especially now, to just fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'd even recommend it for your first trip.
Especially not for your first trip.
If you've been many times and you can find the happiness and joy and experience normal.
You know what you can skip.
Exactly.
At your first trip, you will be, how many clients have you run across, Tim, that they're like, I went once and I swore I'd never go again?
Right? Then you talk to them, you're like, well, you did it clearly wrong.
Or let me show you how to do it right, and I'll change your mind. I'll show you. I'll fix your husband for you. No charge.
I had a friend at work. He was like, we had a terrible time. Everything was crowded. I was like, when did you get there? At 10:30, 11, we rolled in. I'm like, oh, well, you were done before you got there.
And well, we go back to the backside to ride Splash Mountain, and then by then it said it was this much. By the time I got there, it said it was 3 times that much. Did you stay? Did you realize that they overinflated? It's probably half what it's saying.
What?
Or no, we turned around and walked back to the front of the park.
There you go.
Chased another ride. It's just back and forth. Oh, let me help you.
Oh, exactly.
But that's my best advice. If you're especially your first trip, and especially COVID, use an agency that can help you pack your patience. Like always, we're back to that. It's not as bad, but you're still going to need it. And don't let your eyes deceive you.
That's it. Brett, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing all that with us. That's great information.
Hey, it was an awesome, and I always love talking Disney's.
Always love listening and talking Disney as well. Brad, if somebody wants to reach out to you about your trips or anything else, where can they find you?
Well, the best way to reach out to me is Family Fun Travels by Brad. You can come find me on Facebook there, or you can reach out to I'll give you the one I think is the easiest to remember, my Papa Mouse 101 at hotmail.com. Nice. I am Papa Mouse. I've been Papa Mouse for 3 decades. So
don't stop now.
I think almost every Magic band says it doesn't say Brad, it says Papa Mouse. So, but yeah, so reach out. Those are the best places. Or as always, anywhere we land in Facebook and everything with Resort Loop. I love being a part of this community and serving on the DVC Roundtable, and great group of people there. And Tim here, he's kind of a good guy. So
I try really hard. No, we're having a good time. And like Brad said, if you want to find our group, it's Looper Nation Live over on Facebook, private group. You can sign in there. And thanks to our friend Jeremy, now we have some questions you just have to answer to become a member of the group. So if you're a little shy and you're worried about me rejecting you, which would never happen, by the way. As long as you're a real Disney person, you're going to fit right in.
Yeah.
I'm Tim Scott.
You can show up with firebrands and pitchforks. We're good.
Tim Scott, Facebook, Twitter, the website, ResortLoop.com. No pitchforks. Everyone, please go out there and share the gateway to the magic. Here comes Brad.
See you, everybody. Or if you do it the right way. Oh, I wasn't ready for it. Hold on.
Oh, no.
I got to switch. I tried to do this the other night, and everybody's talking so much, I don't think any of them heard. Okay, everybody listening? Careful.
See you, everybody.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Watch your back, Bob. You thought you got away with it.
Thanks, Brad. We're out. Vacation memories will stay with you and your family for a lifetime. The Resort Loop Travel Group was created with this in mind. Our fee-free services will relieve you of the stress and confusion of finding and booking the best vacation at the best price. After booking, we will continue to monitor for ways to save you even more on your vacation. We will check for any upcoming packages and discounts to save you as many vacation dollars as possible. Resort Loop Travel Group, gateway to your magical vacation memories. Get a quote, or for more information, visit ResortLoopTravelGroup.com.